Jairus' daughter, and healing the woman with the hemorrhage. We know, okay, this is the final story in this collection, and first of several where Mark places story within the story. Now, what you're going to see, Mark will explain a story, but as he explains the story, you will see in between he will put in another story. Right? So that is the style that you're going to see. This device, as mentioned in the introduction, was to allow the embedded story to highlight the theme that helps the reader understand the emphasis of the surrounding story. So the reason why, as he explains about Jairus' daughter, suddenly now, if you look at, you will see a woman with a hemorrhage. In between, he did not finish about Jairus' daughter. In between, because it connects, he's able, because he wants to connect with a theme. And the faith of the woman with the hemorrhage is all that Jairus needs to see his daughter raised, and is said in contrast to general unbelief of those who laugh at Jesus and his claim to be able to raise the dead. Now, it is also one thing I have noted as I read Gospel of Mark several times, just like the Old Testament, remember, God spoke to Isaiah, called Isaiah, and you go and preach to the nation. And Isaiah asked, how long I should preach? And God answers and says, until everything is destroyed, you preach. Until these people are fully destroyed, you preach. And Isaiah wants to ask, Lord, how long I have to do? If I go and preach the gospel, the word to Jewish people, you said they will not believe, huh? No. Then why should I? How long? He said, until everything is gone. Then God will say, but Isaiah, there will be a remnant. There will be a remnant. Some people will believe. Few people will believe you. That's the reason you need to go. That is the same story here. As Jesus comes, all the people, all the Israelites just don't believe. They all reject Jesus. But then there will be a few, very, very few, they will believe. And that is the story now Mark wants to explain. So let's look at Jairus' daughter. First, this is the request from Jairus concerning his daughter. Having crossed the lake again, arriving near Capernaum, on the northwest side of the lake, a large crowd met Jesus. Jesus stood on the shore in the midst of the crowd. A leader of the synagogue in the city by the name of Jairus saw Jesus. All right, so who is he? He's the leader of the synagogue. Probably he's in charge of a synagogue there. And his name is Jairus. He saw Jesus and came and fell on his feet. Fell at Jesus' feet. Jairus pleaded with Jesus, saying that his daughter was on the point of death, and imploring Jesus to come and lay hands on her. Come and lay hands on her so that she might be healed. Jesus agreed, right? He said, okay, I will come. And as they went, the large crowd followed them, right? So Jesus agreed to come to Jairus' house. So as Jesus goes, what happens? A large crowd follows Jesus. And in that crowd, as a large crowd, in that crowd, there was a woman with a hemorrhage. As Jesus was struggling forward in the midst of the crowd, a woman with a hemorrhage, having heard about Jesus, worked her way through the crowd and came up behind Jesus. So here is, so the large crowd goes behind Jesus. Jesus is going to Jairus' house. And there is one woman who was suffering for years. This is what Mark wants to say. She suffered for 12 years. The woman with the hemorrhage. And she spent all her money. And she had on physicians in effort to be healed, but there was no benefit at all. Right? It actually, what we read in 25 and 26, that this hemorrhage has grown worse as years pass by. She was convinced by the reports that she heard about Jesus, that Jesus could maybe heal her, take away her disease. And so she believed, right? She was convinced, even if she simply touched the hem of his cloak, remember, maybe a portion of his cloak, means his vesture, right? The long vesture, the long cloth that Jesus wears, just a peep of that vesture, of that cloth, right? Cloak means C-L-O-A-K. Cloak means clothes, right? She thought he is able to be healed. So having worked her way behind Jesus, she reached out and felt the edge of his garment, edge of the garment. What happened? Immediately, her hemorrhage stopped. And she sensed from her body that she had been healed from her affliction. Immediately. Right? Wonderful. At the very moment, Jesus also recognized something, right? Right? Jesus recognized something. What? Recognized that someone had touched him. Someone had touched him. And the power to heal had gone forth. So Jesus knew a power from him is gone to someone. Of course, Jesus knew exactly who he is there, right? You know, turning, he asked his disciples, you know, what is the question? Hey, who did touch me? That's quite interesting, right? Hey, who touched me? Remember, all the people are just following him. All are hitting him, maybe touching him. You know, that's what I think, you know. All these people were touching him. All of them. And still, Jesus asked, hey, someone touched me. Right? His disciples responded by saying, yeah, it is impossible to identify who might have touched him, in that many from the crowd were pressing in on him. Many were actually touching him. Many were touching him. Then it is impossible to identify who really touched. As Jesus looked around to identify the one who had touched him, right? Jesus looked around, right, to the one who touched him. The woman, fearful because of what had happened to her, right? She was so afraid. She came and fell down before Jesus, telling him all. Just came and fell down before Jesus. Jesus replied, hey, it was your faith in me that had made her well. You believed in me, and you are well. And she could go in peace, because having come to faith in Jesus, she not only had been healed of her affliction, but more importantly, she had been reconciled to God. Because, you know what? She believed that Jesus was the Messiah. That is the point, because she is a Hebrew woman. She's a Hebrew woman who believed in the Old Testament, who knew when Messiah comes, this is what's going to happen. And she believed just that. And that's what happened. And she had been reconciled to God. But where was Jesus going? Jesus was going to raise Jairus, or heal Jairus' daughter, right? But it is on the way. This woman comes to the scene. Now let's go again, continue the journey, right? Jesus raising actually Jairus' daughter. So why to raise? As he was, while speaking to the woman, servant from Jairus' house came to Jairus and sadly informed that sad news. What is the sad news? Your daughter is dead. Your daughter is dead. Suggesting that he should inform Jesus. So, Jesus would no longer be troubled by this matter. So Jesus doesn't have to come now to heal, because dead. Right? What happened? They did not tell Jesus. They were talking, okay, we need to inform Jesus the daughter is dead. But Jesus overheard the conversation. Yeah, Jesus heard what is going on, the conversation, and said to Jairus, he should cease being fearful for his daughter and simply believe in him and his ability to deliver her. Jesus told to Jairus, stop being afraid. Just believe in me. That's what Jesus said. Taking only now Peter, James, and John, right? Yes, because this is known as his inner circle, right? These first three are called to be the inner circle of Jesus, right? Inner circle of Jesus. Only these three. There are many occasions that Jesus will take only three. That is Peter, James, and John. Not all the disciples, right? And there are many occasions. And this is one of the occasions. Inner circles of disciples with him. Jesus followed to Jairus' house. Upon arriving, Jesus saw a large number of professional mourners. You know what is professional mourners? There are people who are there, not only part of the family who mourn, but if you pay money, people will come to mourn. Which is not only there are places in India, in Kerala, in my district where I'm from, there are people like in the olden days, it was a practice, that if you are a big if you are a wealthy family, and you don't want to mourn when someone dies, right? But the custom is that if the death happened, there should be great sound of a lament. So what they do, the relatives and people from the house, from the home, they don't want it to cry like that. So you can pay money and bring ladies, right? They will cry as if their immediate relative is just lost. It's so. And what happened? Some of the movies have, these scenes have come into some of the movies as well. So yes, professional mourners gathered and were loudly mourning the death of Jairus' daughter. Right? They were loudly mourning, right? Lamenting, crying. Entering the house, Jesus addressed those gathered and asked, why are you mourning? In that the young girl's death was not a permanent, but only a temporary. Saying she had, in effect, actually she fallen asleep. While hearing Jesus describe the girl as if she was sleeping and not dead, those gathered, what happened? What did they do? You see that one? They began to laugh. So these people were doing what? They were crying all this time. Now they are laughing, right? That's a contrast there. Criers, right? The mourners are laughing. Putting all of these out of the house, right? All the professional mourners are sent out. Jesus took the inner circle, that is Peter, James, and John, and the girl's parents into her room. Taking the young girl's hand, right? Jesus addressed the child directly to her to get up, right? You know, this is that Aramaic phrase, Talitha Kumi, right? Get up. Immediately, the girl arose from her bed and began to move about. All those witnessing this miracle were astonished and what they had just seen. As he had done on other occasions, Jesus instructed her parents that they should tell no one about these miracles. Or don't tell anyone. And having said that, he instructed them that they should provide something for the young girl to eat. She needs food. Right? So it's quite interesting. There are many times Jesus said, don't tell anyone. And there are times you go and speak. All right? So that's how Jesus has explained this, or what Jesus did for Jairus' daughter.